and welcome to my Build Lego and chat about some of the films and TV shows I've been watching video. So recently I saw Hannah from Ladder End doing a video where she was talking about her favourite books of the year while she was building some Lego, and then I also recently saw Cara from Wild Book Garden talk about some of the films and TV shows she's been watching while she was also knitting. So what I thought I'd do today is combine both of those because I have a Lego set that needs building and a lot of film and TV I want to chat about, because I suddenly realised I don't chat anywhere near enough about the films and the TV shows I've been watching on here, because I mostly do that on TikTok. So today we're going to be building this and going through those. So let's get this open and start talking about some of the films and the TV shows I've been watching. So I'm going to start with a theatre show that I saw because I don't see those often and I really wanted to talk about it, and that was Sister Act. Right. Is that everything? Yes, that is everything out of the box. So we've got this big bag here, and then the base, and this little bag, and a whole load of instructions. So what I'm going to do is, before I start talking, I'm going to move this down so you can actually physically see what I'm doing when I put everything in here, so I can sort of rummage around in it without losing it, hopefully. That's what I usually do when I build Lego, and you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So anyway, I'm going to open this up and start talking about Sister Act, because I recently saw Sister Act in the theatre, because we really wanted to go see it, and we found some seats that were cheap, so that is what we did. We went to go see it, and it was incredible. I did not know the story about Sister Act. If you do not know what the story is about, it is about a young woman who is the witness to a murder, and she has to go into witness protection before she goes to sort of testify in the trial. And what she does is she ends up being right, I'm going to start building Shuri. I think that's what I'm going to start with. So I'm going to find all the Shuri bits while I talk about Sister Act. So there's a bit of Shuri. Anyway, she ends up having to hide with these nuns in a nunnery while the trial sort of waits to happen, essentially. Is this the right bit? Yeah, this is the right bit. I'm just putting it around the wrong way. There we go. That's the top part of Shuri. Don't even see that. There's the top part. I've now got to find her legs. Anyway, so, oh, there's also T'Challa in here. Great. So, there's her legs. We have a Shuri. Brilliant. So, I'm going to put her over there. And it's sort of following her as she's in this nunnery. She wants to be a singer, this kind of thing, and she ends up sort of butting heads with the Mother Superior while also teaching the other nuns to sing. And it was an absolutely fantastic show. I really enjoyed the show, and I thought it was really good fun. And my god, can Beverly Knight, who was the lead actress in this, my god, can she sing. Like, I knew she could sing because obviously I've seen her perform on TV and things like this, but she can really sing. I mean, the way she absolutely belted out those songs, I mean, I was in awe. Like, how she's doing that, like, 8 times a week, I don't know, because her voice was insane. Quite frankly, her voice was absolutely insane, and I absolutely loved it. I won't lie, I absolutely loved the show, and I thought it was brilliant. We now have a full Shuri, so good start. I don't usually build Lego by myself, so this may go wrong at any minute, but I've built a Shuri, so that's a good start. I'm very good at building the figures. It depends on how well I do with the rest of it. Right, so this is what we're doing now, and actually you can actually see a progress bar with Shuri across the side of it. That's quite cool. Anyway, so we are looking for those parts there, and outside of that, the other things I've been watching is a whole load of film and TV, and I'm going to start by talking about, I think I'm going to start with talking about Godzilla and Kong. That's where I'm going to start, because that was one of my favourite things I've watched in the last month, and it was so much fun. I love Godzilla Kong because it is the epitome of the most ridiculous action movie you've ever seen in your life. Because I love a good ridiculous action movie. That is not a like pass at it or anything else. That is not an insult. I love ridiculous action movies. Every Friday night we will sit down and we will watch the most ridiculous action movie we can find, and we will sit. It's like a tradition at this point. It's one of those movies where you can just turn your brain off and just enjoy it. It's films like 2012, The Day After Tomorrow, stuff like Independence Day, Skyscraper is another one, anything like that. That's a Friday night movie, and Godzilla Kong and all of the Godzilla movies and all of the King Kong movies definitely count as that, and I really, really enjoyed it because, I mean, it was, like I said, the epitome of these ridiculous movies. I think that's the bit I need. I mean, I think it is. There's no other bit in here that looks like that, so I think this is what I need, so I'm going to use it anyway and hope for the best. I mean, that doesn't quite look right, but I mean, I'm going for it. That does no. Give me a sec. Phone call sorted. Anyway, so I think that's the wrong bit. I'm going to carry on looking while I chat. So, where was I? Godzilla Kong. And this movie was absolutely bonkers and over the top. It's literally about two giant monkeys fighting each other, and one of them has the help of a giant sort of lizard thing. So you can imagine it is absolutely ridiculous. Oh, King Kong, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, has got a sort of metal hand thing attached to his hand for plot reasons that I won't go into in case that is spoilers, but it was a bit Pacific Rim. I absolutely loved it. I'm going to say that is the right part because I don't have any other parts, so I'm going to say that's the right part. Anyway, so I thought it was brilliant. It was fantastic. I loved seeing Dan Stevens in this movie as well, because I feel like he's disappeared for a while from my screen, which I don't really enjoy because I really like Dan Stevens as an actor, so it was fantastic to see him again. I was wondering where this bit went. It was stuck inside there. So, anyway, it was great to see Dan Stevens again as well, which was fantastic because he is not in enough things, quite frankly, and I love seeing him in stuff, so it was great to see him like back again and doing like big TV things and stuff like this, or big film things. He was fantastic, as was everyone else in this movie, quite frankly. I loved Brian Tyree Henry. He was also in this, as well as Rebecca Hall. Both of them were fantastic. They were in the previous movies. I also love the fact as well that it used sign language in this movie as well. That was fantastic. The use of sign language was really, really good fun, and I thought it was quite accurate and stuff like this, so that was great. And just generally, I had a really, really good time with it. I've just found out that Adam Wingard is not going to be continuing on and making another one, which makes me really sad, but hopefully the team is going to continue from this movie into the next one and things like this, because I really enjoyed the team in this one, and it was just fun. It was ridiculous. It was over the top. It was great fun. Outside of that, I've also seen Abigail recently as well, which also actually starred Dan Stevens, and we are now making T'Challa, and I love that movie as well. It is very much sort of like a slasher movie, which is great, because I love slasher, and the slasher in this one takes the form of a bunch of criminals essentially kidnapping a young girl, and there's T'Challa. Don't know if you saw that. There's T'Challa. So I've got Shuri and T'Challa, and I've also got this little sort of weapons holder thing. Anyway, so it's involving a group of criminals as they kidnap a young girl for ransom from her very rich father, and it turns out that she's a vampire. She's like a young girl, she's about 14, and she's a vampire, and she goes around getting her revenge by killing off every single one of them, and they're fighting to survive, but they're all idiots, and it was hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious and over the top, and I loved every single minute of it. It was just so much fun. It was absolutely ridiculous, but so much fun. It also had Melissa Barrera in there. It also had Catherine Newton. It was also the young girl in there from Matilda. She was Abigail, the young ballerina. There was also Giancarlo Esposito. He was also briefly in this as well, and it was just absolutely hilarious at points like where they're trying to find like garlic to try and save themselves from the vampire, and they pick up onions and they're like, no, that's onions, and Dan Stevens says it in basically the line reading of the year. Quite frankly, I've seen a few people describe it as that and definitely agree. So that was fantastic. I mean, none of the characters are very nice people in this, but it was just fun. It was just, if you like slashers and vampire movies, check out Abigail. That's all I've got. If you like slashers and you like vampire movies, definitely go and check that out because they are incredible. And like this movie just combines those things really well while making it really funny as well. And over the top, it uses a lot of blood though. They actually ran out of blood in Ireland where they were filming this, so they used that much blood. They had to fly more in, so that gives you the kind of idea of what this movie's like. And it was so much fun. It was a ridiculously good time. And I will definitely be watching it at Halloween again and whenever the DVD comes out, because I'm definitely getting that on DVD along with probably Godzilla Kong as well. The only other Godzilla Kong movie I've got is Kong Skull Island, because obviously that's Tom Hiddleston, Samuel L. Jackson, Brie Larson. So naturally I've got that one, but this one is definitely also getting bought and I will be watching them over and over and over again as soon as possible because I love them so much. Outside of that, I've also been watching the X-Men movies because Deadpool and Wolverine is coming, so naturally I'm rewatching all of the Deadpool Wolverine movies because generally whenever a new Marvel movie comes out, I start rewatching like any movie to do with that movie before that one comes out. So say when Endgame came out, I rewatched the entirety of the MCU from the start through to the end. Literally just rewatched a lot of them. Whenever say Doctor Strange comes out, I'll rewatch like the previous two and his previous appearances, things like this. Like whenever a new one comes out, I generally rewatch anything to do with that movie before it comes out. So when the Marvels came out, I rewatched Captain Marvel 1, WandaVision and Miss Marvel. Basically, you get the idea. So that is what I am doing with the X-Men right now, and I know I've watched them many times in my over the years because I adore them, but I'm adoring them all over again as always. And I think I'm viewing these a little bit differently now because I know I'm just realizing you can't see what I'm doing, but I've just sort of made this little thing here. But anyway, I essentially love the X-Men and I am viewing them a little bit differently at the moment because I now know that they're coming to the MCU. I think that's what's sort of making me view them a little bit differently because I'm just like, these are my favourites and they're coming back, and I'm sort of looking at them and sort of assessing it and going, oh, who's actually going to be in these movies, who's going to get recast, things like this, because obviously we know that Hugh Jackman is back, which just fills my heart with so much joy you cannot begin to describe it. Wolverine was a childhood hero of mine. We know that we've got the Beast from the original X-Men movies is back from, because he's in the Marvels. Obviously we know Deadpool's back, things like this, and I'm just loving sort of going through and being like, okay, I want mine if you get recast, I don't want you to get recast, I want you to carry on, this kind of thing. I'm also sort of looking to see if there's going to be any sort of Easter eggs in Deadpool and Wolverine to these movies. We obviously know that we're going to see Pyro, Lady Deathstrike and Azazel, and possibly Toad and also Callisto are all going to be in, obviously, Deadpool and Wolverine because we've seen them in the trailers. We also know that we're going to see Cassandra Nova. She's going to be the villain of the piece, so I'm sort of focusing a bit on Charles at the moment because Cassandra Nova is his evil twin. So that's quite interesting. I will, by the way, be covering all of this in my Deadpool and Wolverine blog post, which will be coming up in July. So if any of these people that I'm mentioning about don't make sense, don't worry, all of it will be on the Comic Book Sanctum, which I'll leave a link to down below so you can check it out. But anyway, I'm just loving watching these again. They just bring me so much joy. It's unbelievable. They just bring me ridiculous amounts of joy. And speaking of X-Men that are bringing me huge amounts of joy, I'm going on to the TV shows now because I have watched X-Men 97, and my god, is X-Men 97 a good series. I love X-Men 97. I was not I never watched it as a kid. I never watched them as a kid because I didn't have the channel. I literally just did not have the channel, so I could not watch X-Men 97 as a kid, which was really sad to me. I never watched any of the Marvel sort of cartoons as a kid because I literally did not have the channel, so I stuck with the movies. And so I decided to start watching the original cartoon when it was like just before X-Men 97 came out, and I was like, this is really cheesy and really sexist. Jean keeps on fainting every 5 minutes and she's the most powerful character arguably in this. Why does she keep on fainting? Things like this. So I was a little bit sort of iffy about it, but I decided to give 97 a go because I wanted to give it a go, see what everyone was on about, and then I couldn't stop. I was hooked immediately from the original, like from the first episode of X-Men 97, and I could not stop watching it, so I ended up watching it religiously every single week when it came out, and I loved every single minute of it. I will say it was still very, very cheesy, and it very much sort of squashed major storylines into like half-an-hour chunks, and I wish they could have explored things more. But the message of the X-Men that they kept in there was absolutely brilliant. I thought they did a fantastic job with keeping the memory of the X-Men in there and keeping the essence of the X-Men perfectly, because the X-Men is a metaphor for racism, sexism, homophobia, all kinds of bigotry. They are the metaphor for that, and the way it is handled in the TV show was beautifully done. Especially with everything going on in the world right now, there is actually a major trigger warning, I should say, right now to X-Men 97, because there is, in the middle of the series, a genocide. And it takes place on an island called Genosha, which is like the mutant island, and a bunch of people, well, a person I should say, decides, I'm going to destroy them all, and creates these giant robots called Sentinels, and essentially attacks Genosha when they're having a big party, and he kills most of the people in there, and you actually see the devastation, and you see the death and the murder of these people, and it is not swept under the rug or anything else. And it was so impactful, even if what was going on in Palestine right now wasn't happening. It was so impactful and hard-hitting. It was incredibly well done. I do think they could have maybe gone a little bit further with it, and maybe done something to bring attention to Palestine as well, because they were obviously talking about genocide and how this is a genocide and things, and they were actually, there was actually a scene where they're trying to talk to the president, saying we need more help getting people out of the rubble, and trying to sort of save anybody we can, and trying to help rebuild and things. And the president's like, well, I've given you as much as I possibly can right now, and I can't give you any more, because then I'm going to risk my voter base, and if we do that, then maybe I won't get voted in, and then you'll have someone who's not going to help you as much as I would. And it was very sort of like true to real life, I guess you could say, in that sense. And things like this, like the politicians taking a step back and being like, whoa, I can't be seen to be too sort of pro you, because that's going to affect my voting poll, like affecting me in voter polls and things like this. And it was so true and so brilliantly done. I do wish that, like I said, they'd expanded more on it, but what they did hit hard, and it was brilliantly done. I cannot get enough of X-Men 97. It was so well done. Alright, I've now made a T'Challa on a little sort of wheelie thing, so that's quite cool. And outside of that, I've also got to mention Doctor Who, because Doctor Who, I'm only 3 episodes in, no spoilers here, but so good. Ncuti Gatwa is one hell of a Doctor already. He is fantastic. He's only been in 4 episodes so far, technically 5 if you count his 5 minutes in the regeneration episode, and he had me from that moment. I won't lie, because any actor who can come in for the first time playing the Doctor, newly regenerated, and hold their own against David Tennant, who is in full Doctor mode, you have me immediately from that, because that is not easy, because David Tennant is my Doctor. I don't think I've made any sort of secret about this, but David Tennant is my Doctor. I've said this many times, but David Tennant is one of my all-time favourite actors. My childhood ended the day he regenerated the first time round as 10 into 11. I was heartbroken for weeks. I'm still heartbroken. I literally rewatched the regeneration before the, like his regeneration into 11 just before the 60th anniversary specials came out, and I was sobbing all over again, even though I knew he was literally back in a couple of hours at time of me watching that. I was sobbing. And like, David is my Doctor, and to see someone stand up and hold their own against David is not easy in my mind, and Ncuti Gatwa did it effortlessly, and he was the Doctor immediately. He was absolutely 100% the Doctor immediately, and I adored him. I absolutely adored him, and the episodes he's been in so far, incredible. Like Boom, him in Boom was incredible. Like, no spoilers, like I said, but him managing, where is that? That's this bit. Okay then. But him managing to do everything he did in the episode Boom without being able to go anywhere or move, because he's literally like stuck on a bomb, essentially. He cannot move. Everything he had to do was entirely with his face, and he nailed it so much. Like, he absolutely nailed it. And he's nailing everything to do with the Doctor. Like, the bit where he's talking to Captain Poppy about how nobody is born wrong, that was 100% the essence of the Doctor, and he knocked it out of the park. Absolutely knocked it out of the park. Every single time he's knocked it out of the park. And then also, the amount of theories I've also got to do with, like, his season and what I think's going on, and the Pantheon, and who Ruby is, and everything else. I've got so many theories. I've realised I'm still holding it down here so you can't see what I'm doing, but this is what I've got so far. But I've got so many theories about what's going on in terms of the Pantheon and everything else. I've been detailing it all on TikTok, so I won't go over it here. But if you want to see my theories and stuff, it's all on my TikTok, which I'll leave a link to down below. There we go, got another bit to it. But I'm loving it. I'm loving having Russell T Davies back. I'm loving having... I don't think I've got... Is that the red thing? Yeah, that's the red thing. I panicked then because I didn't think I had this sort of little weird red thing. Anyway, but I'm just absolutely loving what's coming from this, like, this season of Doctor Who. Having Russell back and everything else, it just feels like my childhood all over again. It 100% feels like my childhood, and it just brings me ridiculous amounts of joy, like I keep on saying. But genuinely, the amount of joy I am getting from watching it and building this, actually, is just unbelievable. I feel like a kid again every single week watching it, loving it. Then what else have I been watching? Dead Boy Detectives. I should also mention Dead Boy Detectives because the show is so much fun. It's about two boys who are dead, and they have teamed up together to become detectives, and they team up with a psychic and a couple of other people, and they're dealing with psychic and ghostly murders and stuff like this. And it is so much fun. It is also queer as well, which is fantastic. And it is brilliant. If you haven't watched The Sandman, you don't have to have watched it to watch Dead Boy Detectives at all. You can just go into it. There are only 2 scenes that won't make sense, and they're mainly cameos with Death and Despair, who are part of the Sandman series. So you can watch it, just know that you'll be confused for those 2 scenes, but everything else will be absolutely fine. And speaking of the Endless, we also now have the final 3 members of the Endless. We have the Prodigal, we have Destiny, and we have... finally, Delirium. And I'm so excited because they did recently announce it at a time of filming, and I was screaming because perfect casting. And the costumes and everything, I'm so ridiculously excited. I'm ridiculously excited for Sandman Series 2. But anyway, Dead Boy Detectives, fantastic. If you haven't watched it, go watch it, especially if you were a fan of things like Lockwood & Co. Definitely go and watch this because it's very, very similar in that sense. It's about teenagers and ghosts and ghostly happenings and all the rest of it. Go watch it. It's fantastic. It's queer, it's fun, and it's just so good. It's so good. I had so much fun watching it. Definitely go and check it out. Then also, I've been watching Bridgerton, and no spoilers, but that final scene, the carriage scene. I've never read a Bridgerton book, and the only thing I've looked up about Bridgerton outside of the TV show is who everyone ends up with, because I was just curious. And the carriage scene? That's all I've got. The carriage scene. My God. The cliffhanger, my jaw dropped. I was sort of squealing and kicking my feet and all the rest of it. No other TV show makes me feel like Bridgerton feels. That's all I've got. I love Bridgerton so much. It is fantastic. Just ridiculously good fun. And I'm desperate for the second half. I'm desperate for the second half. I need it immediately. I need to know what happens. Obviously, there's been a lot of speculation. And obviously, some people know because they've read the books. But I haven't read the books. Things like this. But, oh, it's so good. It was so good. I'm desperate for the second half. I'm desperate to rewatch the first half. Just ridiculously good. Loved it. And then the only other thing I've got to mention that I've been watching recently is Orphan Black, and specifically Orphan Black Echoes, because Orphan Black Echoes is the spin-off to the original Orphan Black series, and we are set like 40 years into the future, and we are following, and I'm not going to say this is a spoiler because it's revealed in the first episode, an adult Kira who was Sarah's daughter in the original Orphan Black. And by the way, if you don't know what Orphan Black is, it is a fantastic TV show that everyone should go and watch, all about clones, and every single clone is played by Tatiana Maslany, who is She-Hulk, and she does the best work I've ever seen an actress give, or any actor actually, and that is saying something because I've seen some damn good performances over the years. But she plays 9 or 10 different characters, sometimes all within the same episode, and she makes each one so distinct from the other. I forgot it was all her. I literally forgot it was different people acting, but it is not. Every single performance is her, and it is incredible. She is incredible in the show, and it's just following them as they are figuring out who they are, what they are, why they were clones, this kind of thing. And this time, and in Orphan Black Echoes, we are following Kira, who is now an adult, who is doing some science experiments involving basically 3D printing out people. And we are following adult Kira, and then also the actress who plays Jessica Jones, who is one of these people who've been printed out. And it is so good. I am only on episode 4 at the moment, but I am absolutely like hooked to it. I can't stop. It is brilliant. Once again, I'm loving it. It feels very Orphan Black, which is exactly what I wanted, and now I'm desperate to rewatch it. But I don't have time to rewatch it because there are a couple of other things I need to rewatch first that are taking a little bit more of priority, sadly, at the moment. And those things that I need to rewatch at the moment are The Boys and Gen V. Because, one, I'm a superhero nerd. There was no way I was not going to be watching The Boys and Gen V. But the next series of The Boys is coming out in June, like mid-June I think it is. I think it's actually on the same day that Bridgerton Part 2 comes out, which is going to really test my priorities. But The Boys is very much like a satire on superheroes, but also the modern world as well, because one of their main characters, one of the main villains, is a guy called Homelander, who is Trump. Is without doubt Donald Trump, and he's very much the bad guy. He is an awful human being, but he's also a superhero, so he's got a lot of power. And in the show you are following him, and then also The Boys, led by Carl Urban, playing Billy Butcher, with admittedly a very bad accent that's supposed to be English, but it wanders, to say the least. It wanders more than Michael Fassbender's does as Magneto in the first X-Men movie, like in X-Men First Class. So that tells you how much it wanders, but it is a fantastic show following them trying to take him down, as well as 2 other people who are controlling the superheroes and dealing with like what happens when this amount of people has this amount of power. And it just satirizes our world and everything going on in our world and everything else. And there are points throughout the show where I go, oh, they went there. And there are points where I'm like, they're not going to go there, and then they do. All while also being the bloodiest, sweariest show I've ever seen. Like, it's so bloody and so sweary, it makes Deadpool look like Spider-Man. That's the only way I can describe it. It makes a Deadpool movie look about as tame as a Spider-Man movie in terms of blood and swearing and all the rest of it. It's that bad. But I love it. I'm absolutely like obsessed with it. And it brings me ridiculous amounts of joy to watch it. And I cannot wait to see what they're going to do with the next series, especially with how that and the spin-off Gen V, which was all about the superhero university, and how that ended, how this is all going to end. I know Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in the new series, which is exciting. I don't really know much else about it. I just know that they're going to be exploring more of how Homelander is sort of getting very power hungry, like more power hungry I should say, because he's already power hungry. And I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with this series, because I'm like, how are you going to one up what you've already done? Because they've really gone there in a lot of ways, and they've gone to town with it, and it is fantastic. So I'm really excited about that. I'm also going to be rewatching Loki before Deadpool and Wolverine comes out as well, because obviously Deadpool and Wolverine is set in the TVA, so of course I'm going to be rewatching Loki. And then I'm also rewatching Sweet Tooth as well, because the final series of that is about to start. And I love Sweet Tooth. Sweet Tooth is an adorable little TV show. I'm saying it's adorable. It's not adorable. The kids are adorable in it, but it's a very serious show and very much trigger warnings for pandemics and prejudice and xenophobia in the show, because it literally opens on a pandemic, and everyone's wearing masks and things like this, and they keep on getting a thing called the sick, which is basically a death sentence. But at the same time, a whole bunch of kids are starting to be born with animal traits. So the main kid, Sweet Tooth, has got antlers and like little deer ears, and then you've got another kid who's got like a pig nose and a pigtail and all of this kind of thing. And you've got all of these different kids, and you're following Gus, who is Sweet Tooth, the one with the antlers, as he is trying to find his mother and trying to find out what happened, this kind of thing. And it is a wonderful TV show, but definitely not for kids, and definitely not for anybody who is still very sort of pandemic worried, I'd say, because there's a lot of pandemic stuff in there and things, so just be warned about that. But it is a fantastic show. I absolutely love the show so much. Right, how does this work? So you put this in here, and then I'm guessing you fire it? Oh, like that. Okay then. Yeah, that makes sense. So it's sort of... Where did that go? Oh, it's gone there. So it fires at that, essentially, and it sort of knocks it over. That makes sense. Okay then, and then... Yeah, that's all of it. So... You just put Shuri, say, I'm actually going to put this over. I'm going to drop things. This keeps on happening whenever I make stuff. I get too heavy-handed. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to be rewatching Sweet Tooth because that's coming out soon. And then also I may end up watching Legion if I get 5 minutes, because I'm not going to lie, Dan Stevens is following me. Like, not the actual actor. Definitely not the actor. But Dan Stevens, as an actor in TV shows and films, is following me, and he played Legion, which was a TV show all about the son of Charles Xavier, who is Professor X, this kind of thing. It was not technically set within the X-Men universe, but it kind of technically was. It was one of those ones, and I just fell in love with the show because it was an X-Men TV show, and I really liked Dan Stevens as an actor. And so I watched it when it was on, and I will say that the final series was not my favourite in the world, but the first season at the very least was really, really fun. Second series was also really fun, but really weird, and then the final series, I didn't like who they cast as Charles. I don't think they did Charles right in my mind, and I also just didn't like how they ended everything with the villain. Wasn't my thing. Anyway, but weirdly, Dan Stevens and Legion keeps on being mentioned recently, which is really weird because obviously I saw him in the Godzilla Kong movie. I then saw him in Abigail. I knew both those things were coming out. He's been talking about them. I was like, yes, sure, fine. You're back on TV. Yay. Well, you're back on film. Yay. Give it to me, essentially. Then I read 2 Trials of X comics, and he turned up in both of those. Like, Legion, the character, turned up in both of those and was a main character. And if you don't know, Legion is not a character who shows up that often. But then he showed up, and I was like, okay then, fine, you're here, at last. It's taken you long enough to turn up on Krakoa. Brilliant. And then 2 separate people in the last month have mentioned wanting to rewatch Legion. On average, I hear about people talking about Legion once a year. And then V.E. Schwab and someone else I follow on Threads both mentioned wanting to rewatch Legion. And I was like, okay, what's going on here? Because usually this doesn't happen. Usually I'm the only person talking about Legion or thinking about Legion. It's just usually me. And then suddenly 2 people have mentioned wanting to rewatch the show, and I was like, is the universe trying to tell me something? Is Legion about to get a mention or gonna show up in Deadpool and Wolverine, and I need to rewatch the show? And I was like, I don't have time to rewatch the show, but now I really want to, because it feels like the universe is trying to tell me something. It's probably not, it's probably a coincidence, but at the same time it doesn't feel like a coincidence. I'm now like, kind of want to rewatch Legion, but that is going to be a case of if and when I get time, which is probably not going to happen because, as you can tell, I've got a lot of other things to watch, and if you couldn't tell, I watch a lot of TV and a lot of film. And actually this weekend I'm seeing Furiosa, so I'm even at the cinema this weekend as well. So, you know, like, I'm very busy in terms of trying to finish books. I've also got a lot of other things going on. I'm preparing for the Eras tour, which I am seeing in exactly a month at time of filming. I'm building Lego, as you can see here. I'm rewatching a whole bunch of things. I'm watching a bunch of things. I don't think I'm going to have time to watch Legion. So what I think I'm going to say is I will watch Legion if he shows up in Deadpool and Wolverine. If he doesn't, I'll leave it. But if he does, I'm going to end up rewatching Legion. But to tide me over, I may watch a couple of clips on YouTube because I do love him and I do miss him. But I think that's everything now because I've built the thing and I've mentioned everything on my list. So this is the lab, as you can see. I'm not going to fire it because I don't want to lose one of the things, hit the camera or hit me. But this is Shuri's lab and this is the T'Challa and this is Shuri. So I think that's where I'm going to leave this video. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, tell me what you've been watching recently. I'd love to know. Or if you don't have that much time, leave me a blue box emoji down below to let me know that you were here. I'll also leave a link as well down below to all of my social media if you want to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is my website dedicated to Marvel Comics, which is going to be filled with all things Deadpool and Wolverine throughout the month of July if you are interested in that, as well as a link as well down below to my Bookish Etsy store if you want to treat yourself to something bookish today. Or if you just want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time everyone, bye!